Girl, you the damn, and she love me when I'm in it, and she never be pretending, nothing is real. She gon' tell you what she bought it, cause she know you can't afford it. Know you can get it, looking exquisite, no competition, stay on the pivot. Who be watching, they be plotting, she's so motherfucking independent.
Hi, this is Camille Cower with the E Spot, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet my guest today. She is a voiceover artist that once she starts talking, you might recognize her voice.
Welcome with your automated wake-up call.
Guest today, it's the one and only Miss Allison Smith. Thank you so much for being my guest. I'm so excited to find out more about all that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Camille, for having me. Thank you. Oh, it's so nice to be here.
So nice to have you. So tell me, how did you get started in voiceover?
Well, people hate hearing this, but it was really accidental. So I have a degree in drama from the University of Calgary, where I live. And, the plan was to be an actor. And I had, relative success in film and theater and all that. But I just didn't like the lifestyle. I mean, you and I can discuss that because I know you are in acting as well. And so...
What kind of lifestyle did you not like? Just so people are aware, yeah.
Yeah, so especially with theater, there's a lot of, late nights and sleeping in and working weekends, and it just didn't appeal to me.
Vampire hours.
Exactly, yeah. So I started doing radio commercials as a way of paying the bills in between acting jobs, and it just kind of took over, which was great because it kind of uses all of the acting chops that we're trained to use. And then I was approached by a company in Alabama called Digium, and they developed this telephone system that was up and coming. Right now, it's one of the biggest telephony platforms in the world. So they approached me to do telephone prompts, and that was kind of a new area for me. It's called IVR, or interactive voice response. So anytime you call into a company and you hear somebody say something like, "Please enter your PIN number followed by pound." Yeah, that's me.
Just like the woman I just gave my PIN number to.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. Could you repeat that? Yeah, stuff like that. So I just found that I loved doing that, and it sort of put me on the map for voicing telephone systems. And now that's my specialty. That's what I do now. So there you have it. Mm-hmm.
So when you first got started, what was for you, like, what was that point where you're like, okay, now this is the big job. I'm really doing it. Like, this is my career now. It's not just in between acting. This is my gig.
Right. So I was submitted to audition for Canada's Safeway stores, so the big grocery chain, to be their national voice. And for some reason, I seem to do better on jobs where I don't really know much about the project. So I just thought it was a one-off. I thought, I'm just auditioning for a spot for Safeway. And, it turns out they were looking for their national voice, and I landed it, which was great. So for the next 2 or 3 years, I knew what was going to be on special before anyone else did. It's like, you're buying asparagus right now? Well, you should just wait till next week. So yeah, I was doing a lot of voiceover in that area. And I think that's kind of where it sort of occurred to me, hey, wait a minute, you could actually probably do this full time, which pays better than theater and has a way more reasonable schedule. So I don't know.
So what is the schedule like? So how, when you break down the process of it, how does it go from audition process to actually booking the job? What is that process for you?
Right. Okay. So to clarify, I actually don't do too much broadcast anymore. So I don't do very many TV or radio spots. It really is phone systems, and I don't audition anymore. I did the whole thing of being on the, they're known as pay-to-play agencies. So they're voiceover agencies that are on the internet, and you can either join for free at the very basic level, or you can pay them a great deal of cash and they'll put you on sort of the upper echelon level. But it's still spending your entire day auditioning and not really getting anywhere. I find that I'm way too busy with my clientele that I record for to do any kind of auditioning. So the day pretty much is, checking email first thing in the morning and getting back to people with quotes, printing off the things that need to be recorded that day. I usually record in the morning when I'm nice and fresh and full of energy, and Yeah, I voice and edit and send files off on my FTP site, and it's fantastic. Very seldom do I ever have clients that have to listen to what I'm doing. They just hand over the script and they say, "Do your thing," which,
Yeah.
as you know, I think is probably the biggest compliment if somebody just says, "We want you to do that thing that you did for that other client." So yeah,
Mhm.
and but you also wear a lot of hats. You have to invoice and you have to do marketing as well on LinkedIn, and it's a multifaceted thing. It's still just me running the whole thing. I have a web guy that does my SEO and that kind of thing, but for the most part, it's always been me, and it's me running the whole thing,
Oh,
which you know
wow.
all about.
Yeah, I'm learning. I mean, because much like yourself, I had agents, I was working with a radio station. So now doing it all on my own, I'm learning about the
Yeah,
invoicing and all the other elements of it that if
yeah,
honestly I wouldn't
yeah.
want to do ever again.
Right, exactly. And
Not
the
the fun part. Oh,
chasing down of the invoices that have gotten a little too old, it's all
yeah.
of that you have to do, and it's I don't know. But there's so much variety in what I do. This is what I love about it. Every day it's something different, and the industries that hire me to voice for them are limitless. I mean, I did one for the biggest maker of industrial boilers
Hmm.
in the world. I didn't know anything about boilers, and I still don't, but
That's one of the
I
joys of
sounded
being an actor. You don't have to. You just do it.
exactly. You kind of fake it, yeah. So I acted like I knew exactly what I was talking about. So yeah, no, this is what I like about it, because every day it's like, oh, I'm voicing for a mortuary. Oh, I'm voicing for the Archdiocese of New Orleans. I actually did the IVR for the Archdiocese of New Orleans. So yeah,
Oh.
it's all very strange.
Have
Yeah.
you ever gotten a job that was just so crazy or just whatever they asked you to do, you were just like, there's just no way I can do this. Have you ever gotten anything like that or something that was just like a really fun gig that you
Yeah.
could share?
Yeah. So I'm also being developed as a voice for Amazon Alexa. So I'm venturing into AI voicing, which is great. So that can mean anything from talking refrigerators and that kind of thing. Things that you don't think about that have a voice, such as the elevator that says, 15th floor. Somebody had to voice that to begin with.
Right.
So one of the strangest projects was it was a company in Japan, so that should give you like a little bit of framing. It was a secure toilet stall that basically locks and will not open unless the user puts her hand on the back of the door. So in other words, it prevents somebody from barging in. I know you look
Hmm.
confused.
Yeah, I
So
was
I
like,
had
how do you maneuver all of this?
yeah. So basically, yeah, it won't open unless you put your own hand on the back of the door, and that will open the door again. But
Right.
they wanted a voice to come out and greet people as they sat down and said, "This stall will not open unless you put your hand on the door," or something to that effect. And I just thought, am I on the radio? Am I being punked? This is crazy. Oh my gosh.
I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Um, Another project that I do on a regular basis, and it's depressing and it's kind of odd, but it's calling registered sex offenders to let them know that they are in violation of their parole.
Oh,
And so I do it state by state. It's the U.S.
you
Department of
don't do too
Justice
many
that
of
gets
those
me to.
calls, but
Well, when people say to me, "Oh, I just received an automated call from you last week," I'm going, "Oh, did you really now?" Yeah.
now that
So
was before.
exactly, yes. And for that project, I could not use like an alluring or sexy voice. They wanted a very stern, "You're in trouble
You're in
now."
trouble. Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, so it's projects like that that I just sort of go, "What? This is crazy."
How fun. Have
Yeah.
you done any that are like pranks or even like with, I guess, amongst your friends, even because they know that you have the voice to have you like maybe call
Right.
someone and trick them or
Yeah.
any of that? Or
Yeah.
sorry, I
So
did a lot of pranks as a kid, so that's where my head
there
went.
you
And
go.
they were like,
There you go.
oh, the
Well,
Alexa
well,
voice.
probably, yeah, probably the most similar thing to that would be, so that phone system with the company in Alabama that hired me, they hired me to do serious prompts, but one of the users had me do some joke prompts. And one of them was in a very deadpan voice, I said, "Weasels have eaten our phone system." So that's fine. I record that. And that was about 20 years ago, and I didn't think anything of it. Well, apparently, Citibank had a failure of their phone system during the summer. I think it was in August. And for some reason, that prompt got into their system. And that is what Citibank customers heard when they called in. Weasels have eaten our phone system. Yeah. So a Business Insider picked up on that, and they quoted me in the article as well, saying, "This is the voice of the weasels." So
Oh, how fun.
isn't that wild? I voice these things and I don't even think they're going to go anywhere, or I don't even think about where they're going to be used, but apparently you can come back
So how
and
does
bite you like a weasel.
yeah, and ruin your phone system. So when you first got started, because I'm thinking about all the different automated voices that I hear, and
Mhm.
like it went from just like 911 being the main one, but then going to where with
Mhm.
GPS systems, like you mentioned, elevators and so on. How does
Yeah.
that process work? Because you have to learn, or I guess you have to say every number, every street. Like how does that even like when they reach
Yeah.
out to you to do something like that? How much dialogue do you have to go through in order to
Right.
voice something like that?
Yeah, so typically a typical job is just an opening greeting for a company and a close greeting and maybe a phone tree, for Camille, press one, that kind of thing. But if you're doing a bigger system and they want to build stock prompts from the ground up, yes, you have to record all the numbers, all the months, all the letters so that it concatenates together. So that's when it gets stitched together by the system. So if you call to check your bank balance and they say your balance is $1,428, all of that has to be read at the same level. But sometimes you have to do the numbers in an upward inflecting style and a downward and a neutral, just so when they're stitched together, they sound natural and not robotic. So yes, some of the systems take a long, long time to voice and edit. You have to edit them into separate sound files. Yeah.
Mm.
The
I
weirdest thing though,
There's CFO
um,
that. Like, how
yeah,
much stuff do you have? How many backup drives
exactly.
do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you do a text to speech engine, that's a little bit different. And that's where they give you almost like a phone book sized script. And they say, read all these sentences, and their software breaks it down into separate phonemes. It's very strange. So I've done a few of them, but the most popular one is by a company out of Pittsburgh called Kepstrel, and it's called the Allison text to speech voice, and it's their number one seller. But so this allows someone to just type in something and it will be my voice that says it. A little bit robotic. It's not, the same as having me record it from the ground up. But it's made me show up in very strange places that I wasn't expecting. So I was staying at a hotel in Dallas, and I ordered one of those automated wake-up calls, and it was me waking me up, which
That's so
if you can
true.
imagine, it's like, hey, that's my own voice waking me up. It's
Yeah.
very
I mean,
strange.
because so
Yeah.
many people have that thing about where they don't like to hear their own voice. Like
Yes.
that too.
Yeah.
So was there ever that element where you had to get over that as well, or recognize, I guess, tuning your own ear on how to hear yourself, knowing when you are on the right levels, or like, how did that work about too?
Yeah. No, it sounds like you have a very, very good awareness of vocal awareness, I guess. So that whole self-consciousness that people have about hearing their own voice, I got over long ago. So
Mhm.
now, as it probably is for you, because you edit your own material as well, it becomes just a product that you produce, and you can listen to a take very clinically and go, that was a good take, that was not so good take, that kind of thing. The reason why people don't like the sound of their own voice is that you are listening to your voice through a network of bone and muscle, and it muffles it very nicely and makes your voice actually sound lower than it actually is, which is why when you listen to your outgoing message on your phone, you go, oh my gosh, I sound so squeaky. No, actually you don't. You're hearing it muffled in this beautiful way normally.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One
But
thing
I've long since gotten over that
yeah.
self-consciousness.
Okay. I know
Yeah.
even like sometimes when I get nervous or I'm excited, my voice will change even with that. So it's like being aware of when to use those changes and differences when you're reading a
Yes,
script. There's a lot to consider. What are some of
there
the,
is. Yeah.
I guess, when you first started out, what were some of the notes that you received that would be helpful for someone maybe just getting started or
Right.
interested in reaching out or starting in voiceover work? What are some of the things that tips you would give?
Hmm. Yeah. So I do actually get some people, it's usually when I market myself on LinkedIn, occasionally I will get someone who says, well, we don't really have any need to hire you to do stuff, but I've always wanted to get into voiceover. Or people will say, people tell me I have a great sounding voice. And so,
Mm.
yeah, that's actually a good starting place, and that's a good raw material to have. But you need to be directable. You need to actually be able to take what they're giving you and deliver a completely different take depending on what they've told you. And if you're doing a voiceover at a public studio, if the pandemic ever goes away and we start working in the same room together, um, if there is a whole bunch of ad agency people that are attending this session, that will stretch out the session very, very long because everybody wants to give their input. And sometimes the suggestions or the direction is contradictory. So you have to be able to kind of sort through what they're telling you and say, oh, okay, you want it faster, but you don't want it to sound rushed, or, stuff like that.
Like cherry picking it out, figuring out
Yeah,
what you
exactly.
want.
So, to those who want to get into voiceover, I would recommend taking a voiceover workshop, either virtually or at a sound studio in the city where you live. It's a great way to experiment with being in front of the mic and just seeing how directable you are, because that is a key thing. Even if you have a home studio and you're working by yourself, you will ultimately deal with clients who say, that sounds a little too sexy, or that sounds too robotic. That's another feedback that I get. If I do prompts that are a little too cold and clinical and a little too well enunciated, it will sound robotic. And most people don't want that. They want conversational. They
They want to
want,
be
you
convinced
know,
that maybe it really is a person, but it's not.
exactly. And it's weird because some industries that you would think would want very serious, straightforward prompts, like banking or investment firms, pardon me, are actually after more of a reassuring, more of a relatable tone because they want to demystify money and investments and sound welcoming. So yeah,
Makes sense.
so
They want
this
you
is
to
this is
trust
kind of
them.
where the yeah, and this is where the acting thing comes in, because you have to be able to take that direction and go, oh, okay, they want to do it a bit warmer, or they want it to be a bit more relatable or friendly, that kind of thing.
So you mentioned earlier how when you first started with the different agencies you worked with, that there was like a pay to play type situation.
Hmm.
And on the film side of things, usually when you have to pay up front, it's a red flag. So what are some
Right.
red flags that you would suggest or that you would warn others about when it comes to
Mhm.
voiceover? I would assume that it's a really easy business for people to take advantage or
Definitely. Yeah. And
consume.
unfortunately, with the pandemic, I think a lot of actors are thinking about doing a home studio kind of setup, which is great. But I think the online agencies are probably going to capitalize even more on people just wanting to make a living from home, which we can understand. So I just, not being a huge fan of any of the pay to play agencies, even the really big, well known ones who I won't mention, they all have a strata of talent. So basically, you can walk in the door with your microphone that you found at Best Buy and just hook that up in your kitchen, and you could actually start voicing at the very basic level. But what they don't tell you is that there's various different degrees of talent levels that you have to pay for. And often there's a level that they don't advertise, the very creme de la creme. And those are the people that get first pick of all the really big, juicy jobs, and all the other jobs kind of filter down. So I personally, unless you need experience in auditioning, and that's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing if you can work at auditioning for maybe 6 months to a year. After that, I don't know. I don't think it's weighed in the favor of the talent, if that makes sense. It really is a moneymaker for the actual agencies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when, of course, when the pandemic first hit, as an actor, I was like, okay, well, how do I work from home? Let me figure things out. Like, and went and Googled, bought the first podcast mic I could find, and so on, and then realized it's not the same kind that's for voiceover. So I was like,
Yes, yes.
I'm like, well, there goes that. But like I won't advertise that anymore because
Exactly.
luckily
Yeah.
I'm in SAG, so they offer a lot of free classes. Well, I mean,
That's
you pay to be in
fantastic.
the membership, but they offer a lot of classes where you can learn more about the tech side of things and editing
Well, that's
and
good.
so forth, and which is
That's
great.
very good.
So if you
Yeah.
have access
Yeah.
to that, I would definitely
It
suggest
is.
looking into that as
Yeah.
well, just to get the basics so you know where to start as well.
It's
But
great that they offer that for sure. Yeah.
now,
The other thing that I would also
oh, sure.
the other thing that I will also recommend to talent is there's so many people doing voiceover right now. So you have to kind of figure out what thing that you do differently is. What is your thing that makes you stand out from the crowd? And when you're starting out, it's fine to be a generalist, to be able to do radio, TV, e-learning, IVR, that kind of thing. But eventually, I think you have to decide on a niche, or a niche has to pick you, like it did with me. Like I just sort of fell into telephony voicing, and it's turned out to be great. So every voice talent that I know who's a success has a specialty. So I do have a colleague. We actually meet for this superpower breakfast every now and then. And one of my friends, Paul, he is the e-learning module guy. He does nothing but online training courses, voicing those. My other friend, Doug, he is an event voiceover guy. He is the monster truck guy. He's that guy that goes, let's get ready to rumble. He's got that voice. It's crazy. I see my camera's doing that weird strobing thing. I don't know why it does that. Anyhow, a little sidebar. I seem to have like a flashing light behind me. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just having kind of an eye thing. Anyhow, and animation voiceovers. Everybody wants to get into animation and be Bart Simpson, that kind of thing. That's a really competitive market. But I do have a friend that actually does video game voicing. So whatever your thing that you feel drawn to is what you should be doing. And you should actually devote your time to specialize in one area. And I know that's kind of anathema to somebody in acting going, well, nobody would restrict themselves going, I only do comedy. But in voiceover, you kind of have to pick a lane and just devote your energy to it.
Okay, good to know. So when you were first starting out, since you said it was kind of chosen for you, was there a different direction you were hoping to go, or did you have a different idea when you first started? How did that work out?
No, I kind of think that, the plan being an actor, I think that was kind of my dream and what I worked towards. But once I got into doing something else, there was kind of that epiphany moment going, listen, you're not always on edge waiting to hear about what parts you got or didn't get, or worse, how they don't, notify you at all. Sometimes projects just go away and it's very, very frustrating. Yeah, exactly. And you know all about the uncertainty of acting. There's a little bit of uncertainty too with voiceover, especially when you're starting out. It's a little less now that I have such a huge core of regular clients that I record for. But it's just a calmer, more secure, regular hours. I can actually take a vacation and it won't be the end of the world. And I always thought when I was an actor that I couldn't leave town and I couldn't change my hair. And it was very restrictive about, that kind of thing. Yeah, she's nodding. She's going,
you just said the hair part. I didn't work for 6 months because I changed my hair, and I've been wanting to change my hair to that ever since, because that's just the rebel in me sometimes. But I looked so beautiful with braids, but it was considered not commercial. So I didn't work. I worked like 2 gigs during that time. And I've always been like, I want to have fun colored hair. I've been working in the entertainment industry since I was 12. So I've never been able to venture with fun, funky stuff or having different nails. And And
the other thing is, can you afford to change your headshots every time you change your hair or do something different to your appearance? It's like, no, most actors cannot. So It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's amazing. So, now are you planning on doing any classes yourself, as a matter of fact? Or anything you'd like to share with the audience that they can learn more from you, Miss Amazon herself, or Alexia?
Yeah. Well, no, I sort
Or
of
in the
pondered it, and then I sort of thought, oh, there's so many classes out there. What I do and what I also kind of fell into was vocal coaching. And it came from, so I'm a big yoga practitioner, and there were some of my yoga teachers that were kind of driving me crazy with the way that they were speaking. They were actually talking like Kardashians.
the nasal
And doing things like, lift your leg, raise your hand. They were actually, yeah.
the nasal
awful.
fry. Yeah, my
Yeah,
aunt says I do
it,
that, and I
it's
don't. I'm just like, I talk like
right.
California,
And
but
it's really prevalent. And
mm,
the amazing thing is, as soon as I pointed it out to, a couple of the teachers, they were aware that they were doing it, but they weren't sure exactly how to stop doing it. And sometimes all it takes is that awareness that you have a tendency to do that. So I actually do a workshop in a yoga teacher training context. So several studios here in Calgary hire me to come out and talk about things like vocal fry, Upspeak. I don't know if it's really big in your area where you
no,
live,
what's
but
Upspeak? I live in the South, so
well, so Upspeak is where everything sounds like a question, even if it's not a question.
that would be
Yeah,
the
there's
Valley
like a
Girl.
distinct, yeah, it,
Yeah,
it is a little bit Valley Girl. I think it might be a Canadian thing, and it's definitely a female thing where we are afraid to make a declarative statement. So we temper the end of the sentence with a question because I'm scared to say something
definitive.
definitive with a period at the end, that kind of thing. Yeah. Ticks. So those would be words that filler words, kind of. Those are
Right.
all words that people, yeah, exactly. And a certain amount of it is normal and natural in speech, but if they're too prevalent, it becomes a little bit of an issue. So, yeah, I enjoy coaching. It's fun.
That
Yeah,
sounds like a lot of fun.
it is. It is. You're clean, by the way. I'm listening to your speech and you sound great. So,
Okay, so I have to tell you, I was raised abroad. I grew up in Europe,
oh,
Turkey, and Germany. And when I first moved to America, they
wow.
put me in ESL because my accent was so strong. And when I
Oh
was
my
on
gosh.
set, a voice actor, well, he actually taught at oh, I can never think of the school when I want to. But anyway, he
Mm.
helped me get rid of it because I had a very thick, like German type accent. And
Oh
when
my
I
gosh.
think about it, my rhythm slows down because I start going back into that slower rhythm.
Yes,
I have to think for each word. Like I still don't remember the English words of things, which not
that is
everything's English.
fascinating.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was like going to a voice and diction class while I was in school and learning more about voice and
Mhm.
acting, and just realizing how lucky I am that since I moved to America at 12, 13, that I was able to get rid of my accent to a point where you say that I'm clean.
Yeah,
You just made my
absolutely.
day.
Not
And
only
I'm
that,
tongue-tied. So you just made my day.
oh my gosh.
I try to hide it really hard.
And you're Southern, Camille,
Well, I'm
and
not
there is no, okay,
26
well,
different schools, but yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
started here. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, yeah, and you live in the South, so it's really, really hard not to take on that native accent of where you are. So you are neutral, which is a great thing for an actor to be. Yay! Yeah, no,
Official.
totally. Yeah, there's no regionality. Yeah, yeah, you're good.
I'm going to put like a little A+ on my homework for the day.
A little gold star for you, Miss
I'll
Camille.
take it. It's official. Allison Smith said it, so it's
There you
real.
go. You're good to go.
So I was gonna say, I remember back when AOL first started. Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and date myself. And they had this whole thing where it was like, you've got mail, and you could
Yeah.
pay for different celebrities to say it. And it was like a fun thing where you would have different people that would say, you got mail. And then later
Mhm.
on, there was jokes. I don't know if it ever happened where Snoop Dogg was going to be voicing a GPS system. It was just like a joke, like
I
how
think he did. I think
oh,
he did.
okay.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's got to be like, and I wonder, have they ever done like maybe a rated R version or like funnier version, or like, do you ever think to do like those, or has that ever come up as an option, just maybe for even April Fool's Day or different things? I don't know. I always think about pranks. I love pranks.
Yes. Yeah.
With
Actually, I did record an on-hold system for a client. So, those on-hold systems of, your call is very important to us. Thank you for holding. And then there's cheesy music in the background. And it literally went on for about 10 minutes of the usual stuff of, you will be helped by the next available operator and all this. So, it kind of went on. And then at one point I snapped and I said, thank you for holding. You know what? You are not going to be helped by the next agent in line. In fact, it's very possible that nobody will come on the line and take your call today. Hang up. Live your life. Spend time with your children. You are not the next caller in line. And I kind of lost my mind. And it's still out there. Some people actually have it on their phone systems because they just think it's hilarious.
What made me think of that also is that, so back in my 20s when I was dating, there was this number you could give to guys that just couldn't take no for an answer. And you would call it and it was automated, dude.
Yeah.
She's not interested. She doesn't.
Yes.
Like it was a whole thing and it was hilariously funny. And I was just curious if you had done anything remotely.
I actually did something. It was a breakup service. So they would actually call him and say, this is a call to let you know that Camille no longer wants to see you. It's not you, it's her. Move on. And
I just found my dream calling.
How awful it would be to get that call, but what a helpful service. That's what I thought.
I would think it would be more of a prankster because I don't think anybody would be that immature. But hey, people break up during text messages, so
yes, they do. Yeah.
So
and if you can get some unknown, unseen person to do the dirty work of saying, "Listen, it's just not working out. She doesn't want to see you.
She's just not.
Don't call her.
Yeah,
she's just not that into you."
Gosh, I love it. I love that. Now I'm like going to be thinking of all the wonderful automated calls. My voicemail may change today because we would buy when voicemails first started, really aging myself again. We bought like a voicemail book and there was like these different prompts you could that we would switch it out. Like I remember one was for a funeral home, you kill them, we bury them, or something to that effect. And 8-ball pool hall, 8 balls. There was like all these random funny things, prompts that you could read. Yeah. And I would do them every couple of weeks. I would change my voicemail to a new joke, whichever one I could find. Yes. So you just revamp.
Oh, voicemail. Did you ever have the great big thing that you could retrieve your messages with? It was like a big clicker. It looked like a remote control from a TV. And if you were away from home, you dial your number and it would go beep and retrieve your messages. That's how old I am. I had a voice service, if that counts. No, that's way after that. Wow. Pager? Of course you had a pager back in the day.
I missed the Sidekick because I went from pager to Trio. So I had the Trio.
Blackberry. Well, my husband downloaded this workout coach. Wow, look at that. That's collectible.
Little pockets around me, just like technology.
That is.
Know how far it goes.
That should be in a museum. No, my husband downloaded this workout coach for his smartphone called Endomondo, and it kind of keeps you honest at the gym and keeps you motivated. So the first time he used it, he came home and he said, "Guess who's the voice?" So they were using a text-to-speech that I did, and it was literally me saying, "Come on, 5 more sit-ups. I believe in you." So he changed it.
I can do that at home for you.
He gets too much of that at home. So I think he changed it to the Australian male voice or something. Yeah.
So wait, you're the Allison on our GPS when you can pick Allison or on your Siri? Because there is like an Allison option now that you've.
Is there? No, I haven't done GPS yet and I would love to. I would really love to.
I was like, wait, I think I picked Allison before on my Garmin.
Oh, is that right? No,
Mhm.
no, it's just a character name. I wish it was. Oh, darn.
You're so
Or maybe
famous.
I should check Garmin. Maybe they're using me and I don't know.
It could be. I mean, they are. I mean, it's kind of an old Garmin.
Yes,
But oh wow, this has been so fascinating, and I just
it
have learned
has.
so much from you. And thank you again so much for being my guest today. And is there
Thanks
anything
for
else you'd like
asking
to
me.
share? Oh, it's my pleasure. My
Oh,
pleasure.
so fun. I think we could probably do this for another 2 or 3 hours, but
And trust me, I would love to, but I'm like, oh, she
yeah.
actually has money to make today using that same voice, so I'm not wearing it out. I don't want to strain it. And plus, after you told me that my voice was perfect, I'm on
You
cloud
have a
nine.
whole
I
new
have nothing else to do today.
you have a whole new career. There you go.
If only I
Oh
didn't
man.
have a USB mic. I didn't know. So that's one thing I would tell you guys. Don't get a USB mic if you're looking at
Yeah,
voiceover. Apparently, you got to go one
there you
step
go.
higher than that.
There you go.
So,
Hmm.
oh, great. Well, thanks again, Allison. This has been great.
Thanks,
And
Camille.
I look forward to hearing your voice in so many different places now.
Now that you know it's out there, you're going to be
Yeah, for
listening.
sure. I'm gonna have
Yes.
to get me an Alexa just to hear you.
There
All
you
right.
go.
All right, great.